This is Face the State for Sunday, April 20th. Happy Easter to those of you who are celebrating today. The governor celebrating Passover when an arsonist came to his home. And as the rebuild begins, so does the political fallout. A new bill would punish stalkers using Airtags. How the state legislature is trying to catch up with the latest technology, but still finding it hard to find the finish line. And it's a creative way to get more teachers in the fold. You'll hear from an expert on that coming up next on Face the State.
CBS 21 News presents Face the State with Joel D. Smith, a look at the issues and politics that shape Pennsylvania.
Here's that aforementioned expert. Did your eyes go up when I said expert?
They did go up. I don't know if I've ever been an expert before.
Well, you are now, at least according to us. Hey, this is my first guest this morning. A teacher for 27 years, pretty expert there. And now talking about education and a number of other things from the State House. It is York County Republican Mark Anderson, a freshman member of the House. Mm-hmm. I want to hear 27 years as an educator, and all of a sudden you're like, you know what? Let's try something else. What happened?
Well, when Dawn Kiefer decided she was going to run for Senate,
Yep.
I talked to a few people, some adults, that said, are you interested in running? I really wasn't at first. Met with a friend of mine who also happens to be my pastor. He said, hey, let's put the brakes on this. He said, hey, let's pray about it. You know, when pastors say, hey, we're going to pray, you're going to end up doing something that you really didn't figure on doing. So what closed the deal was some students that I had talked to made the case why I should run. And I have letters in the top of my desk at the Capitol from those students as to why they believed I should run. There's accountability within those letters and encouragement within those letters. So that's really what made me run.
What was your specialty? What did you teach?
I taught American history.
And here we are.
Here we are,
making
yes.
some history and talking about stuff. All right, so you're a member of the Education Committee now, rightfully so. Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily have the traditional, teacher's opinion when it comes to the unions and things like that. Let's get into some of the differences. When you're coming from, let's back up a second. So you're an educator. You've seen what's been happening with the legislature and how they're approaching education. What was the biggest thing you wanted to change coming in?
I think there were a number of things. Number one, I want local school districts to be empowered to run their school district the way that they want.
Give me an example. What didn't happen before?
All right. For instance, if the state is mandating, I'll use the example of professional development.
Okay.
The state is mandating, okay, you have to have A, B, C in your professional development. Whereas all of the teachers, gym teachers, social studies teachers, math teachers, they're coming in and they're getting all the exact same thing. Whether they're going to use that in their class or in the gym or in the art room is something completely different.
Okay.
So I think what kind of school you are, you want to tailor that to your school and your specific teachers.
That makes sense. Instead of the big picture, just seeing what you actually need.
Right.
All right, you've seen how the funding has probably gone up and down over 27 years.
Sure.
You heard the big change last year with, of course, the ruling.
Correct.
Where are we now in terms of where you think we should be, and what did you actually see as an educator? What's going on with the money?
Well, I think you have two sides of this. I come from a teaching background, so I hear a lot from the teachers' unions and from school administrations, and their answer is always more money, more money, more money. I'm not saying the schools should be funded, but I always ask the question, how much is the right amount? Like, give me an amount, because right now, the governor's proposed budget, it's $8 billion, just over $8 billion for public education. The total proposal is $51 billion. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money that we sink into education. We are in the top 10 in the country in education funding. We are in the top 10 of percentage per capita income, median income in the state. So I'm always asking, how much? And can we think outside the bus? One of the things that I ran on that got me into this as far as education as well is that every kid is different. And the old public school, let's fit everybody into the same hole, just doesn't work anymore.
But don't you need money to treat every kid different because you're going to need specialties and things like that? Absolutely.
I mean, we're not saying cut off the money. We're just saying how much money is there and are we spending it properly? For instance, I am a school choice proponent. I think that parents should have the power to have money and be funded to send their kids to schools that work better for their kids.
I think most people agree with that, but is that money, would that be endless or be capped?
No, it would be capped.
Yeah.
An example of that is Lifeline scholarships.
Yeah.
We've been trying to get Lifeline scholarships. It's $100 million. $100 million can put 250,000 kids to, and these are the bottom 15% performing schools, to pull them out and to put them in another school that may serve them better.
Okay. Teacher shortages. We know that's a problem right now. You were in the thick of it.
Yep.
You probably saw some teachers go in, had great ideas, and they got wiped right out. So tell me what would work.
Well, the one thing is we don't have teacher shortages in everything. We have teacher shortages specifically in special ed, in STEM. Those are probably the two biggest ones that we're facing right now. So the maths and the scientists.
Yeah, so what do we do?
So I think number one, we have to allow people that are in the career field, create a pathway for them to teach. So they shouldn't have to go back and get a 4-year degree. I don't even think they should have to get a 2-year degree.
Okay.
If somebody is in a lab and spent their time as a chemist, let's get them in the classroom, teach chemistry.
Yeah.
Another idea that I have is I was a troops to teacher, so I got out of the Air Force, went through a program, went back and got my degree, and my certification, became a teacher. Let's get into these guys that are using the GI Bill, or when they're going to the Air Force Community College.
I see. Okay.
And guide them towards
Be creative.
Yep, be creative.
Yeah, you need some, requirements just to make sure you
Sure,
know how
absolutely.
to teach kids.
Absolutely.
And what have you. But here's my last question for you.
Yes.
The biggest difference between when you thought it was going to be like to be in the legislature and now you really are. It's always my favorite question.
Wow. Well, for 27 years, I loved my job.
Yep.
And for 27 years at a school, good or bad, right or wrong, most of you have the same mission. I was kind of surprised by just banging your head against a wall as to, well, maybe even I know that's right. I know that's a good vote. But man, I get 20,000 from PSEA.
Oh, no.
And,
Yeah.
all of a sudden I can't make that vote. And I have these conversations with
Has that happened to you yet?
It has not happened to, you mean somebody coming to me
Right.
and saying, well, everybody I meet with, I tell them I'm not beholden to you on your vote.
Okay.
And because I didn't aspire to this.
Yeah.
And I have no future plans to go further with my career.
Right.
It's easier for me not to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
I understand people in certain districts have to do that. But that's probably been one thing that's been a great
Disappointment. It's gotta be.
disappointment.
Yeah.
And so, but then there's that when you're sitting in the chamber and you're looking up and you see a big picture of William Penn as a history teacher.
Pretty cool.
I'm sitting there thinking of William Penn's rights and privileges. What are we supposed to be? So it encourages you to not give up the fight.
Love it. Love it. Hey, thanks for being here.
All right,
We'll
thank
get you
you.
on again.
All right.
Doing that good work
All
out
right,
there, and I
take
love your
care.
perspective. All right,
Thank you.
folks, we have a lot more to come. We're going to talk to a lawmaker who's looking to bring more laws into the 21st century. Think it's about time? Yeah, we're talking about trying to keep people from being stalked in a way maybe you track your luggage. Yeah, stick around. Welcome back to our Easter edition here at Face the State. My next guest is trying to update Pennsylvania law to catch up with new technology, and it's really not that new. Democratic Representative from Allegheny County, Lindsay Powell, happy Easter to you.
Happy Easter.
Well, you have this bill. Seems like it's getting a lot of support, bipartisan support, just 2 people voting against it, prohibiting the use of technology like AirTags to track or stalk people. I always like to step back on this and go, why wasn't this already a law? What's going on here?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting us talk about this important bill. As you said, this is an attempt to ensure that we have laws that protect us and really keep up with technology. AirTags are those little dongles, little devices that you're able to put on your wallet or your phone or your keys to make sure that you don't lose them. But we're seeing that a lot of people are misusing them. They're using them to stalk people without their knowledge. They're putting them in people's purses, in their cars, and using it to track them. And so our bill very simply ensures that this is considered stalking within our criminal code.
Right. So at this point, was it already part of an investigation sometimes, an aspect of stalking, and this would just make it more specific?
So it's not included right now. So for the instances that we're seeing across the Commonwealth where you come home and unfortunately in your purse you find an AirTag, that wouldn't be considered stalking. And so
Wow.
this would simply put it within the stalking statute to make it a misdemeanor degree offense so that we're able to charge people with this crime.
Give me a feel for if it's categorized that way, that kind of offense, what kind of punishment can go with it?
So we would be about 90 days. Obviously a judge gets to determine, but about 90 days or a fee or fine as the judge sees fit.
Okay, just one more deterrent for people trying to do it this way. So almost unanimously, it passed last year as well. We've seen some of this stuff. I don't know if you heard our last guest saying, you come up with these great ideas that people can't vote for whatever reason. Did you ever get any reasons for this, or was this the classic, we have one thing, you have one thing, we can't come together and actually decide to bring this to the next level? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think it's very clear in the vote that this is very straightforward. We made exceptions within the bill for law enforcement where they're able to use AirTags to within their criminal investigations. We made exceptions for parents who have children with special needs so that they're able to track them. We made exceptions for businesses that want to ensure that their fleet vehicles are able to be traced. And so we made it very clear who the audience that we're intending, and that's folks who are misusing this technology for criminal purposes.
Okay, we wish you luck on that one. We'll keep track of that one for you as well. See what I did there? Keep track of it? Okay. On to this. You're also the co-chair of the Housing Caucus. The goal, of course, finding those lower cost building projects all across the Commonwealth. How are we looking with that right now, and what are some of the challenges you're running into?
The Housing Caucus has been incredibly exciting. It is bipartisan in the House, hopefully soon to be bicameral in the Senate. The idea is to protect, produce, and preserve housing across the Commonwealth, whether you live in Pittsburgh, where I am, Schuylkill County, where our co-chair, Representative Twarzik, lives. We are seeing across the board that it is difficult to stay in your home, to buy a home, and to make sure that we have plentiful housing stock across our beautiful state. And so this Housing Caucus intends to be a working group geared towards action and finding implementable and passable legislation to help us face our housing crisis.
You identify the problem well. What are the solutions that you're optimistic about? Give me one that you really think has a chance.
For us, it's making sure that developers are able to produce more housing. We know that we need not just deeply affordable, but workforce housing, folks who go to work every day, who have a good job, who still can't afford to buy a house in this state. And so we're looking at increasing the housing stock by making it easier to develop here in Pennsylvania, along with lots of other strategies to produce more housing, as we said, and make it easier for people to stay in their homes.
Is there still a lot of red tape out there, zoning ordinances? I mean, what's really slowing everything down?
Absolutely. I mean, state to state zoning code can be incredibly difficult and complicated. It oftentimes creates barriers for people that want to be innovative and strategic in creating more housing in their communities. A lot of our zoning code across the state tends to focus on single family homes, and we don't want to deter people from doing that, but we want to encourage more types of homes, duplexes or quadplexes. So there's a lot of opportunity to make difference here.
I know you guys are also talking about this legislation to create a blighted property registry. Harrisburg already has, we know, hundreds of blighted properties. Hard to keep track of actually who's responsible for that. When it comes to what you want to do by having this list, what's the goal?
The goal here is to have a list so we know where these blighted properties are and to push those owners to do something about it. Blight is not just an eyesore in our communities, but it can be incredibly dangerous. Condemned properties could fall on other neighbors. It could cause infestation or rodent issues. And so we want to make sure that we're holding property owners who are negligent accountable, and that people know that these properties are available, hopefully through other mechanisms like land banks or sheriff sales, that people can purchase them and put them back into usefulness.
But if there's just a bad owner, absentee landlord who doesn't want to fix things up, them being on this list, would it really do anything? Is there anything beyond that really the legislature has any power for?
That's what I'm hoping the Housing Caucus can continue to push. And so in other states, you see, policy and legislation where if you have a certain number of citations against you, certain actions can happen. But it really is about identifying the problem, making sure that we understand the universe here, and then building other additional legislative and policy tools so that we're able to push that bad actor, that bad owner, to either clean up their property or sell it to someone who wants to be a good, responsible owner.
All right, I think we got to everything, so I just have a silly question at the end. Should we have an Easter egg hunt within the state capitol, and the legislators have to find the red or the blue eggs?
I love this. I love a good Easter egg hunt. We've had a few up in the district this weekend. So any opportunity to continue the fun, the better.
Okay, very good. Hey, thanks for being on the show. And once again, enjoy the rest of the Easter weekend.
Happy Easter.
Our political insider's been standing by, listening to all this. We're going to get their takes on a few things, but also what's going on with the Democrats, including this guy right here. Some new leadership, people like that, but going after some old leadership? What's going on here? We're talking about that and much more. Our insiders are standing by next. All right, folks, it is now my favorite time of the week. Our CBS 21 political insiders are here. Democratic strategist Brittany Crampsey joining us on this beautiful Easter morning. And we also have Republican strategist Mike Regan looking special in his Sunday best. All right, guys, let's start with this. Interesting stuff going on in the DNC. I'm going to look your way for it is. So you get the new vice chair pledging to use Democratic money to defeat Democrats in primaries. This is David Hogg. He's a youngster, 25. He brings a lot of energy, but he also brings this new idea. What do we think of this?
Absolutely. So, the Democratic Party is a large tent, and this is what the primary process is for. We determine who the best candidates are to move into the general election. David Hogg rose to the degree of fame after being one of the survivors of the Parkland shooting, and gun violence prevention has been a top priority of his and for many of his generation. I think he feels that it's not being addressed adequately in state legislatures, in the federal government, and he's working on that. But to say that it's Democratic DNC money is not quite it. He has his own separate PAC he's raising for. He also supports Democrats,
But some of the money is the DNC money.
Sure.
Right, but
He
I'm
is
saying, so you represent Democratic candidates. How would you feel if you have to spend money and fight against another Democrat in the primary that you weren't expecting to when, the money eventually becomes short?
It can be a nuisance, but truly that is the process. The voters decide, and you know what? Maybe we need to move in a different direction. Maybe the populace isn't where their incumbent is anymore. That's why we have primaries.
All right. Do Republicans just sit back and watch this happen?
Yeah, it's kind of fun to watch, but I think Brittany made some good points there. But I think James Carmel's comments over the weekend were interesting too, when he said Democrats, the far-leaning Democrats, should just splinter off and form their own party. That's what I'm for.
Well, he wasn't happy. He was throwing out the number 20 million. What are we doing here? We helped raise this money. Now it's going against us. Let's get back to the biggest story of the week. It was the arson that happened at the governor's residence. You came on and talked to us about the strategic angles of that when it came to security. But now there's the political fallout. Some of the Republicans, including Dan Muser, said we need to tone down the rhetoric, both sides, no matter what. Some of that was then taken saying, you're blaming the victim, that it's partly his fault. The Democrats come in after that and saying, well, he shouldn't do that, they shouldn't do this. The political fallout of this, I know everything's politics, even after something like this. What was your read on the week?
It didn't need to be politics. This was the case of a mentally ill individual who committed an act of violence against the governor. It did not seem to be political. It may have been religiously motivated, but this wasn't a left versus right attack or Democrats versus Republicans, and to bring partisanship into it I think is really inappropriate. And for Muser to then go on and suggest that it was a byproduct of Governor Shapiro's actions against President Trump, as if, what did you think would happen when you attacked the president? It's just totally inappropriate.
What do you think?
Well, look, this was not going to, when we found out that the person who committed this crime was not an anti-Trumper, I thought it was going to fall out of the news completely. This is a way of keeping it in the news for a couple more days anyway. But I think, Dan Muser walked his comments backwards a little bit. And at the end of the day, violence is bad. We should all be against violence. It shouldn't be politicized. And we should, regardless of party, all be against violent acts.
I think we agree on that one. Birthright citizenship, it's been around forever, but maybe not much longer. Now the actual Supreme Court says they will hear the oral arguments about this coming up in about a month. President Donald Trump's executive order to try to end birthright citizenship. Where are you on this one?
Well, it seems like it shouldn't be something we can just, happen by fiat. That doesn't seem right. It's too more, it goes way back to Dred Scott in the 1800s. We got to think about that. But I will say the bigger issue here is whether or not these judges, these individual judges from single districts, can make these proclaim statements to change the president's agenda. I think that's a mistake, and I think the Supreme Court's going to rule favorably for Trump on this.
Okay, birthright citizenship.
I do not believe, to the former senator's point, that you can change the Constitution by executive order. I think that they will rule against him, certainly on process. If they want to attack this a different direction,
I think that's what I said.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I think if they want to amend the Constitution, there is a process for that, and it is not through executive
Okay,
order.
let's get away from that then. Should birthright citizenship continue either way?
Well, absolutely. Yeah. There's no reason why it should not. This is not part of a border security policy. This doesn't make anybody safer to take away the citizenship of people who are born here. I mean, it's not appropriately done, and it's not necessary, and it's clearly unconstitutional.
Can I add something to that? I mean, I think the only thing we're missing here is we should not incentivize illegal immigration. And being able to have an American citizen by birth on our soil does incentivize illegal immigration.
President Donald Trump's approval rating is very low compared to other presidents at the same time, compared to one he's doing better, himself. So his first term, he was not very good at this point. He was like at 41%. Now he's at 45% approval rating. It's going to be hard for him to get above 50 ever, although he did start that way. Most others were easily above that. For example, Joe Biden was at 56% at this time, his first term. The better number for Republicans is when it comes to the confidence in their leaders. 89% of Republicans say they have a great deal or a fair amount of confidence in President Trump. 76% say the Republican leaders in Congress are doing it right. Democrats say only 39% of them have confidence in their leaders, including just 50% for Hakeem Jeffries. What's your favorite one out of all that? What do you got?
I didn't like a whole lot of it, I'll tell you that much. But, Democrats fall in love, Republicans fall in line. They have always been more loyal to their party leadership, and the cult of personality behind Donald Trump has carried him to victory several times now. I don't know, given those two numbers together, whether that cult of personality follows Republicans into future elections. If it's tied to an individual who's middling around the 40s in approval rating, what does that mean for 26 or for 28, particularly if he doesn't try to change the Constitution to run again? Okay, I'm going to move to one more topic here. You heard about the Airtags and the stalking. It seems like it's a no-brainer. Only 2 people voted against it in the entire House. The Senate didn't reach this last time. You were last time.
Yeah.
All right, you were in the Senate. This didn't come up or didn't get voted on. What happened?
I can't remember.
Okay.
But I will say this, is that that's very typical. And I have a long list of examples that I
Just give me one.
Okay, like for instance, safe injection sites, SB 165, Tartaglione, passed the Senate 41-9 and 23-24, remains in House Judiciary.
So that's the point. It's that both sides play this. They say it gets unanimously done on one side almost. The other side won't even take it up. I wanted to bring that up for everybody because it sounds like a no-brainer. Why won't they vote on this at all? The other side has the same problem, and they almost have to make trades to even get the votes.
And this is that time of year. It's budget year. It's where trades are made.
It's wild. All right, something coming up next you never thought we would talk about. It is the politics of outer space, deep outer space. If they're smart. Okay, we're talking about life on other planets. Well, yeah, maybe. It seems like planet K2-18b, just 124 short light years away in the Leo constellation, could be the ocean world capable of giving us real life somewhere else. So, all right, the Republican says we need to send a Democratic ambassador there. Who goes to outer space?
I would say AOC, but I would feel so sorry for the people riding with her that I wouldn't want to do that to them.
Just one person spacecraft. What do you say then?
I think the working people of this alien planet would be happy to see AOC arrive and organize them, but I would send Elon.
Really?
Truly anywhere else. Okay. But I mean, if this planet is taking new guests.
On a better note, happy Easter to everybody, and we can all agree on that. Find those eggs, win the egg hunt, and we'll see who wins politics next week.